So what exactly is a recession, what causes them, and why do you care in the first place? Stick with me, because I guarantee it's not what you think. Let's get to it. Now, what if I told you the next recession might already be starting, and you could be living through the warning signs without even realizing it? Now, the headlines tell you everything's fine, but the data says otherwise. And the question is, do you know how to read it? So today, we're going to be breaking down exactly why recessions happen, the two major definitions of a recession and why they don't always line up, the role of interest rates and the Federal Reserve, why the recent jobs report have economists sounding alarms, what happened during the COVID-19 recession, and how to spot the warning signs before it's too late. And I'll be asking questions along the way, because this isn't just a lecture, it's a conversation. So let's start with the textbook definition. A technical recession happens when a country experiences 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. So GDP is the total value of all goods and services produced in a country. Now, if that number goes down for 2 consecutive quarters, that's a red flag. But there's another kind, what I call a fundamental recession. And this is what's felt by you and I. Rising unemployment, falling wages, business closures, and asset values dropping. Whether or not the GDP technically meets that 2 consecutive quarters rule doesn't matter. Do you remember the last time the US had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP? I don't either. So the Federal Reserve controls the flow of money in the United States, and their most powerful weapon is interest rates. If inflation's high, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to slow down borrowing costs. And if the economy is too slow, they lower rates to encourage borrowing and spending. Now, here's where things get interesting for today. As of right now, the CME Fed Watch tool shows a 94.9% probability that the Fed will cut rates at their next meeting on September 17th, and that's nearly a guarantee. Now, why the sudden shift? Specifically because of the terrible jobs report from August 1st. The May jobs report were revised down from 144,000 to just 19,000. The June jobs report were revised down from 147,000 to just 14,000. And July only added 73,000 jobs, significantly below expectations, and many believe that number will be revised down shortly. So recessions can be triggered by a multitude of things, like higher interest rates for too long, because too much borrowing costs strangles businesses and consumers. Additionally, falling consumer spending, when people tighten their wallets, they slow the economy. External shocks like war, pandemics, or oil crises can also be a factor. So the COVID-19 recession in 2020 was caused by an external shock, a pandemic that forced shutdowns and destroyed economic activity almost overnight. GDP collapsed, unemployment skyrocketed, and the Fed had to drop rates to near zero while flooding the economy with stimulus. Now compare that to 2008, which was an asset collapse recession triggered by the housing market and bad debt. Now, what type of recession do you think is more dangerous? One caused by a sudden shock like COVID, or one caused by years of bad financial policy like 2008? Let me know in the comments. I'll be keeping an eye out. So right now, the economy is in a strange place because inflation is still above the Fed's 2% target, sitting around 2.8%. The labor market is weakening quickly, and tariffs are set to increase prices further. And the Fed is essentially trapped. You cut rates and risk higher inflation, or keep rates high and watch the unemployment spike. And historically, many recessions start with this exact setup. Weak labor with stubborn inflation. Bad jobs data plus high inflation is a dangerous combination. Interest rate cuts are often the signal that the Fed sees trouble ahead. Now, recessions can be technical, like a GDP decline, or fundamental, real-world pain. So, as we head into the next Fed meeting on September 17th, watch the data, not the headlines. And make sure you're subscribed to stay informed, and I'll see you on the next one.